Hi, I'm Dan. Thanks for checking in on Dimgaard this week. So the thing that came up this week that it actually in the two extremes was managing the session length, the actual time that we are, and again, I realized in the aftermath that this was a topic that wasn't well addressed anywhere, but that is something that's literally going to come up every time you participate in a D&D 5th edition game. And so the first thing that we take a look at within managing the session time is the context of the session time, right? So if you are in some environments, that you have a hard constraint on that, right? Like the game store is going to close at a certain time, or you're at a convention and a session slot is only a certain amount of time, and at the end of that session, someone else is going to be sitting down at that table to use it for a different game, right? So, and then at the other extreme, you may have like a Sunday afternoon game where people sort of show up and there's no real hard and fast, so we're going to start at this time and we're going to end at this time type thing. It's just sort of whenever you're there and whenever you're done. And so the games that I run mostly are kind of in the middle there, right? So whenever I'm presenting the games, I'm almost always in the mode of, okay, I am testing this for publication, and part of that publication framework is that I'm testing these to be episodes that can run smoothly in 3 to 3.5 hours, right? So then what happens there? So sometimes you get sidetracked for whatever reason and you do not start on time, and they're not bad reasons. I'm not saying that these are even undesirable situations, right? Like you may, as we did this past week, we wound up in a very non-D&D discussion about just different things that were going on in the world and our perspective on it and how we related to it. And then after the actual games was finished, after the gaming was finished, we ended up having another lengthy discussion, just sort of hanging out there after the game. So, this, and then plus, one of the players was late that we were waiting on, and so we would have started late anyway, but we were scheduled to start at 6 p.m. We really didn't start until like 7:15ish, and then the actual play ended about 10, right, which is about what you would expect, right? And then we talked for another hour, and so people didn't end up leaving until after 11. And so, like I said, so like in that context, that's all fine, right? It's in my home. There's no immediate pressure on me. It's not like there are things that I'm neglecting to engage in that. People are free to leave if they happen to be that no one had any sort of a hard and fast. Now, we did reach the point where people were like, well, I've got to work tomorrow morning, and it's a Monday night. So so consequently, on the next day, in the Facebook group, or the Facebook group message that we used to manage that session, I issued an apology that I kind of let time management get out of control there, and this particular group of players not hostile to that. Like they understood that, yeah, it was an entertaining, if not particularly focused situation. But I don't think that would be something that they would indulge on a weekly basis. If I were routinely saying we're going to start at 6 and be done at 9:30, and we're routinely not starting until 7:15 and getting done at 11:15, right? And then at the other extreme, we had on this in the second session that I ran, we typically have about 5 players in that game, and we only had 2 this week, and things just go very much quicker when there are 2 players instead of 5. There's not as much like making decisions for the group is much quicker because you don't have to negotiate with 5 people. It's just two players that have to decide this is what we're going to do. Combat doesn't go nearly because there aren't as many participants. And so, you know, in that particular situation, we ended up running way short. Like we were supposed to be done at about 9 to 9:30, and we ended up getting done at like 7:45. And again, that was not a particular problem. I mean, no one is like, oh man, I was expecting to get 3.5 hours of play tonight, and I only got 2. But it is just something that people have to understand and be aware of and take into account. So the point is that you need to understand the context that you're playing under, right? That you're presenting a session under, and you have to be very cognizant of that. Like you have to be like if you are in a situation that has hard constraints, you really need to get focused and make sure that you are because what you don't want to have what does happen, I see it happen fairly routinely at conventions and online play where there's a pretty hard timer in effect of some kind, is, you know, it's like, okay, this is slotted to go 3.5 hours. And the DM suddenly realizes that, oh my God, I'm at 3 hours and 15 minutes and I've got another 2 hours of material that I'm supposed to present here. And then you're left with a very undesirable situation. You have to like summarize so much of the stuff that should have been really entertaining and interesting and or you even worse, you don't get the stuff in that needed to be in, particularly if it's part of an ongoing story, right? Like a lot of the organized play, you have these story arcs, right? And a lot of organized play does operate in those venues that have very stringent time constraints. And so if you are presenting an episode there, you really need to be, you need to come into that having prepared a set of milestones. These are the markers I'm expecting to hit at these times. And so that you can kind of, you know, you're like, okay, I'm supposed to be here in a half an hour, I'm supposed to be here in an hour, I'm supposed to be here in 90 minutes, I'm supposed to be here 2 hours. And you can be much more comfortable adjusting, making smaller adjustments along the way than being there at the end and realizing that, oh my God, I've just run out of time and I don't have anywhere near what I needed to do conveyed to the players here. So that is where I am on session management. You may have other interesting experiences that would be entertaining and possibly beneficial for myself or others to hear about regarding session management, or even in a broader sense, organized play or conventions or anything like that would be relevant, and that would be great to hear from that or see comments in the section below. I try to respond, and I believe I do, to every attempt to contact me, including comments here. And that does bring up the other point. If you find me on social media, please feel free. I encourage you to reach out. And there's nothing I enjoy more than engaging in a robust discussion about D&D, or even D&D adjacent topics, if that's what you're interested in at that particular time. And if you find these videos helpful or interesting, or both, please hit the like button so that we can hit that YouTube algorithm and get seen by more people. And I publish these every week, so you can subscribe and be a part of the community. We are a welcoming community. I think we are an inviting community. I think we're a worthwhile community, but then, I'm biased. So anyway, thanks again for your time this week, and hopefully I'll see you next week too.